Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Tally. This is episode 68, and I'm your host, Brian Tally. The mission and the goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and on Spotify. The online information and handles are all located on the scrolling ticker at the bottom portion of your screen. Be sure to like and share the program as well. You can also support the program by going to Anchor FM or Spotify and clicking the support button. Folks, we have a full week ahead here still to continue on this beautiful, beautiful election week. Today is election day. We've got the Marine Corps birthday. We've got Veterans Day, the changing of the leaves, the cool fall weather, and families and friends huddled around the campfire. I mean, come on. What better way to enjoy these moments than with a glass of the smoothest bourbon around? Simplify Brands is a Texas veteran-owned business that produces Big Stick Bourbon, a world-class bourbon that supports and honors our military. The symbols on the label represent every branch of the armed forces. Big Stick Bourbon has a unique taste, and they even put a charred oak stick in every bottle. Their patented design enhances the flavor and smoothness. The proof is 95, which is symbolic of the 5% profits that are donated to military charities. Get your bottle today and visit BigStickSpirits.com online today to find the nearest retailer near you. BigStickSpirits.com, where the size of the stick matters and the whiskey is smooth. BigStickSpirits.com. Folks, we have a very special guest joining us on today's program. A strong, extremely brave, and courageous woman. Jessica Lynch became a household name in 2003 after being captured by Iraqi forces and held as a POW. PFC Lynch is a U.S. Army combat veteran who was critically injured and captured on March 23, 2003, when her convoy was ambushed during the Battle of Nasiriyah. Her subsequent recovery by U.S. Special Operations Forces was the first successful rescue of an American female prisoner of war since World War II. Jessica was awarded the Bronze Star, the Purple Heart, and Prisoner of War medals. She now has a bachelor's degree in elementary education and a master's degree in communication studies. With that, we are honored to be joined by the one, the only U.S. Army combat veteran, PFC Jessica Lynch. How are you, ma'am?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
The pleasure is all mine indeed. I mean, this is a great honor for me to be sitting eye to eye with an American hero. I mean, somebody who has literally demonstrated what perseverance and determination and what resilience is all about, and of course, just a brave and courageous woman you are, and young lady at the time when all this stuff happened. I mean, again, I'm the one that's honored to be sitting here right now across from you, telling your story to America. I mean, really, at the end of the day, this is a perfect time to do it. It's the week of Veterans Day. And today's election day. I mean, this is about as patriotic and American as you can get, other than baseball and apple pie, is Jessica Lynch right now.
That is awesome. Well, it is an honor to be with you. So thank you.
Awesome. You know, we've got so much to talk about, Jessica. And I just want to dig right into this, because people want to know a little bit more about Jessica Lynch and who you are as a daughter and, as a mom and, as a veteran now. But let's get started to where were you born and what was life like as a child?
Yeah, so I am from West Virginia. That's where I still am located. I moved about 30 minutes away from my, hometown, but I'm still a huge West Virginia fan all and through. So Go Mountaineers. But yeah, I mean, I think growing up in West Virginia, it was all about the hills and the mountains and, being on my grandpa's farm during the summers, helping him with the hay, even though I didn't do too much of that. That was more my brother and cousin. But yeah, I mean, I think just being with family and kind of growing up in that kind of environment made me who I am today. And I am pretty level-headed. I can be stubborn at times, but for the most part, I am still very kind of humble of my upbringing, which, I have a brother who is a year older than I am, and then a sister about a year and a half younger. My parents are still married after, I don't even know, I'm almost 40, so 40 some years that they are still definitely us kids, biggest supporters. So I think having that support system, not only from your family, but also the community that I have grown up in, again, is maybe who I am today. But I love sports growing up. I wasn't great at any of them, but I loved playing them. I think that was kind of the best part of just having fun, just being in school and sports. And, I was a nerd. I love school, still love school. One day I plan on going back and getting my doctorate degree. So yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what led me into wanting to be a teacher, which I know we'll kind of get into, but yeah.
I love it. So I mean, really, at the end of the day, to just recap all this, you are a country girl from West Virginia who had a great upbringing, has a great support structure, has a great family, has great leaders to look up to in your mom and your dad and your siblings. And coal, does coal mining run in your family by chance?
No, that's more of the southern part of the state. I'm more northern, so we don't have the coal mines here. But again, I mean, that is what people think of when they think of West Virginia. But no, I live about an hour and a half north of where most of the coal mines are. So no, unfortunately, my family are coal miners.
Every time I hear West Virginia, I just think of that Hank Williams song. It just brings me back. I'm like, oh yeah, I love it.
Most people do.
Oh yeah, and the cool thing about it is you kind of described, that down home America, small town America, that I so love and miss. I used to live in a small town. Now I live in a big city, but there's nothing more refreshing than me going out to the country. And again, the landscapes, the rolling hills, the sunsets, the sunrises, the ports, all that good old down home, just America, just bleeds red, white, and blue. I love it.
No, I agree. I mean, and I love the city, so don't get me wrong, but there's something about, going outside and having acreage to kind of roam. And, that's kind of how my childhood was, to kind of go back to your first question. I mean, my aunt lived up the road from us. My grandma lived down. So we were all kind of right there where we just mingled up and down the road and not had any care in the world back in the, late 80s. It was just kind of ride your bike to here, do what you needed to do, but yet you knew that you were in a safe environment. So
I had the same childhood. It was, me and my brother we kind of did what we wanted. We rode our bikes all over San Diego, skateboarded, rode our bikes to the beach, jumped off piers. I mean, we literally hiked the canyons and the train tracks. We lived Stand By Me and Goonies. Like, that was our childhood growing up. So, I mean, it was a lot of fun. So I could definitely understand what you mean about, having that great upbringing and having, in a lot of those values there, and having the opportunities to go out and do things and not have to worry about, oh man, is this safe? Am I going to get a bullet over my head here? Our country's become so unsafe over the last few years, and it's it's unfortunate. I do have 4 kids, and that's like, I mean, I'm constantly worrying about them. Like, no, you can't go here, you can't go here. It's like, but they got to be a kid too. Like, they still got to be a kid. So we definitely protect them, but we still let them live too and grow up to try to learn how to be responsible young adults, so.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I mean, that's how we are with my daughter as well. We try to give her that, normal childhood life, but at the same time, we want to be able to protect her as every parent does. I mean, don't get me wrong, but again, there's something about kind of just letting her go out and getting her on her buggy or the bicycle and just kind of letting her, again, still experience that kind of childhood, even though she's now almost 16 and can drive, but it's still something about, again, going out and just kind of letting her have that freedom of being a kid, rolling around in the grass and jumping in leaves and just having fun.
Absolutely. My oldest is 23 and I'm still like, where are you going? Why? Oh, be safe, be safe. It's just the protector in me will never stop protecting, and it's just something that is very hard about parenting is, and I tell my wife all the time, the hardest thing in life is being a parent who cares. Because I'm constantly worried about my children. I'm constantly worried about my kids. And I pray all the time. I'm like, just protect them and just put your hands on them. Because, I mean, let's face it, that's life. That's my life, or my children. And, it's very difficult living in today's age. I mean, really in any age, and being a parent that actually cares so much about your kid. I mean, there's a lot of parents that say, go, get out. But me, I'm the opposite. I'm like, no, stay home.
Yes, exactly. Well, and I never really understood how much that kind of, parenting and watching over. My mama used to always tell me, wait until you're a mom, wait until you're a parent. You'll see what I mean. And I'm like, oh, please. And now I'm almost 40 and I'm like, oh my God, I see exactly what she's talking about, of how you kind of hover over your kids. And it's not that you don't trust them or that it's that protection mode of, you just want to make sure that they are doing okay in life and that they're okay.
Yeah, absolutely. The struggle is real. The struggle is real when you care, so, and it seems like we both really do care deeply about our families and, our faith and our upbringings and everything like that. But, I want to get into some more of the serious things about Jessica Lynch. When you were in high school, you came to a point in your life where you thought about joining the military. You ultimately would pull the trigger and join the U.S. Army. What inspired you to join the Army?
Yeah, so actually, again, this is kind of going back to where, what we were just talking about growing up. One of my greatest role models was my kindergarten teacher. And from the time that I was 5 years old, I absolutely loved and adored my kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Linda Davies. I'll just throw her name out there, but I loved her. I honestly, everything about her, I was like, this is what I want to do when I grow up. I want to be a kindergarten teacher. And I had that same goal from the time I was 5 up until I was 18. So I got out, or graduated, I guess. I graduated high school. And I was like, this is it. I finally get to live my dream of becoming a teacher. And then an army recruiter kind of walked in. He was talking to my brother and I, and actually my sister. And yeah, everything that he was saying, I mean, it traps you like anybody else. They give you the whole spiel about, the college and the travel opportunities and being able to serve your country and what that means. So, I mean, and all of that sounded really good to my brother and I. Again, my brother was 1 year older, so he was already into college. He had finished his first year and was home for that summer. And then the two of us really just kind of sat down and we were like, you know what? We got 3 of us going into college at the exact same time, a year apart from each other. And we said, how can we do this and make it where it's kind of taking that financial burden off of our parents. I mean, we would have worked through college. I mean, don't get us wrong. Like that's, we would have been like any other teen and still work through college to help our parents kind of pay for that. But it was to the point where we were like all three of us going, and at the same time, what can we do? So when this recruiter was telling all of us about the opportunities that we could get that college paid for, but yet be able to serve our country, it was a no-brainer for my brother and I. We were like, this is what we're going to do. And then my sister also had plans. So once she had graduated, she was planning on joining as well. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it started with the military. I really had no plans of joining the military before that. Again, it was, trying to live out my dream of becoming a teacher. And then, one day he walked in, that Army recruiter walked into our lives. So I think that he was put there for a reason. I definitely don't have any regrets about signing up that day and joining. And, I would do it again if I could, hopefully with different outcomes. But I mean, definitely it's something that never really crossed my mind until that day that we sat down and talked to him. And then, again, my brother and I discussing, and then we talked it over with our parents and was like, this is what we want to do.
What year did you join the Army?
2001. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What was the date?
July of 2001. So I graduated in May, and by July we were, officially sworn in. So yeah, my brother left in August.
And then just a few months later, we all know what happened.
Yeah, we know what happened. So of course, when we had made this decision, it was July of 2001. We were in peacetime, nothing. And honestly, we never would have imagined that 9/11 would have occurred. Now I know that 9/11 and Iraq kind of had different scenarios of the outcome, but I mean, we never predicted that from July when we signed up less than 2 months later, the World Center and the trade centers would be attacked. So I left for basic training the week after 9/11. So I did the delayed entry program. Yeah.
What did your mom and dad think? What were their emotions like when 9/11 happens and those towers come down and our country is attacked, having their little girl joining the Army and eventually making your way over to a combat zone in Iraq?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they were scared. They were both working the day that 9/11 happened. And then of course, like I said, my brother had left for basic training in August. So he was already in basic training when that occurred. And then of course, 1 week later I leave. But I think that they were kind of probably like every other American, just life. We didn't know the uncertainties, you know what I mean? Uncertainties of now what, just what do we do? What do we do as a country? What do we do, job wise? What are we doing here? So yeah, I mean, they were scared, they were nervous, as was I. So again, I think it was just they knew that we had to go through basic training. We had to go through our trainings first, basic and then AIT. But yeah, once I got to Fort Bliss, obviously things kind of eased up with them. And then because we were going on, so this would have been March of 2003. So what, about a year and a half later before I actually got deployed. So yeah, I mean, I think they had time to kind of settle into the realization that my brother and I were now Army soldiers and not at home within reach of them, being in college. So they came to the realization that they trusted us, they trusted our unit, and just kind of was letting us be adults and seeing how it goes.
As a father, I'm thinking, my little girl, she wants to be a kindergarten teacher, and that's her dream. And then now she's holding a rifle, and going into combat. And that's, that I could feel the anxieties there and the uncertainties there. Like you said, we didn't know what was going to happen in our country. At that time, instead of forecasting the future and looking ahead to the things down the road, our life was every second, every minute, every hour, and it was day to day. And again, we just were going through the motions again as a country. Well, we all came together, and that was a great day on 9/12. Our country came together. Amen. And we were a cohesive unit as one. And I pray that day returns, not because of 9/11, not because of a terrorist attack, but because we come together as a country again and stop fighting, with everything and everybody in this country. And that's very, very that's another topic, but
yeah. And you're right. The unity was there that day. I mean, everyone was helping out their neighbors. And I'm not just referring to, in New York City or in DC. I mean, everyone everywhere, as was kind of helping out their neighbors, whether it was groceries or whatnot, or however they could. It was all around the country here of being together. And like you said, that united front.
Absolutely. Those flags, our flag flied high and true from sea to shining sea. And they stayed up for a very, very, very long time. Our flag was everywhere. And then just over time, people forget but folks like us will never forget that day on September 11th, because it would go on to affect the lives of millions and millions of Americans and their families. Now, something stood out to me when you said the reason why I wanted to join was I didn't have to put this huge financial burden on my parents. Now, that's very nice of you to say, as a high school senior coming out and saying, you know what, I want to be an adult. I want to earn my education. And with earning my education is going to come a sacrifice. So my sacrifice is going to be serving my country so I can live out my hopes and dreams of becoming a kindergarten teacher. Now, I think that's remarkable, because in today's day and age, everybody thinks that they're owed something. They want this for free, and they want this for free. And you need to take care of all of my college debt and this and that. So I think that's very unique, and it's very admirable of you to give me that reason to say I wanted to join. One, because I wanted to serve my country, and two, because I wanted to earn my education through, again, the sacrifice of serving my country. And what does that do to a person? It teaches responsibility and all those hallmarks of honor and courage and commitment, all the traits that is really needed to be a contributor in our country. And we need more people like you out there that have that same mindset, sincerely. And I mean that wholeheartedly. Now, you find yourself in Iraq as a young PFC. You would end up in an ambush that caused you to be severely injured and captured by Iraqi forces. Is there anything that you could share with us today about that March 2003 incident in Nasiriyah, Iraq?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing that because let me step back, because I have this kind of platform here. I'm going to use it for a minute. I think one thing that people need to understand is that I was 19 years old. I was a PFC. I was not in charge of anything. I was literally at this point during the ambush sitting in the back of a Humvee and basically going for the ride. So I wasn't even driving at this point. I didn't have the maps in my hand. I wasn't steering us. I was not, because I get blamed for that nonstop, about how I drove us into this ambush. I did not. I think that's kind of just a crazy. I think because my name was the one that was kind of pulled out that people most recognize, it's easy for them to blame me. So I just kind of wanted to say that first of all. So when we left Kuwait into Iraq, it was March 20th that President Bush declared war. By March 21st, and going into March 22nd, my commander and first sergeant had made the decision to basically cut our unit into thirds. So 2/3 would continue on with the rest of this long convoy that we were a part of. And then the small back half third of us would stay and help pull these slower vehicles because we kept getting stuck in sand pits. I mean, we would travel a few even feet sometimes, and then we would have to stop and get out and help push these vehicles along. So we got lost because once the front half of the convoy pulled away, it left 33 of us and 17 vehicles behind. And with that being said, we veered off track. Our GPSs quit working. Our radio communication, obviously, because of the distance, we weren't able to stay up in communication. And then there was a failure to read the paper maps correctly. And I am in no way insinuating or blaming. I'm just putting this out here too. I'm in no way blaming any of my superiors. So I have full respect for them, and I've always told them that. So I'm not I'm not blaming them for anything. But there were mistakes made that unfortunately were costly. So once we were kind of off track and I guess you could say lost in the deserts, by the morning of March 23rd, once we found, Hardtop Road again and was kind of on our way back to kind of the rest of the convoy, we ended up making a wrong turn again and ended up across into the city of Nasiriyah. We made it about halfway into the city, and that's when we realized that this was not where we needed to be, and we needed to turn around and get ourselves back out of there. And then once that happened, it was too late. We were just being, attacked from every angle possible. Again, there was 33 of us versus an entire city of Nasiriyah. But the vehicle that I was in was struck by an RPG on the right side of the vehicle. And my best friend, Lori, who was driving the Humvee, ended up losing control, and we slammed into the back of a disabled 18-wheeler. And then, so at that point, she was killed. She hit her head off of the steering wheel and ended up dying later of head trauma. And then the 3 soldiers that were in the vehicle with us were all shot and killed. For me, I was knocked unconscious and then taken as a prisoner of war once the Iraqis, once they came around, was determining who was KIA and who was still alive, they noticed that I was one of the ones that was still alive. But yeah, they took me to the hospital. Well, they took me to one of Saddam's palaces first, where they, stripped me of all my military gear, took away my rifle, that kind of thing, and then to the hospital. The other prisoner of wars that were also captured that day, they were all able to stand on their own, where I was, again, unconscious, so I was not able to, I wasn't alert. So they took me to the hospital where the rest of them were able to stand. They were able to, get around and be mobile. So they kept the 5 of them separated from myself. So I was the only one that was taken separately. Yeah.
I'm so sorry that you had to go through such traumatic experiences. Again, it's the service and the sacrifice that so many Americans don't understand, what 19-year-old kids have to experience and have to endure for a lifetime. And again, there's so many like you out there that have lived a life of trauma like this at a very young age, and you're left picking up the pieces. And again, my heart is with you and your fellow soldiers on that day. And again, I'm very sorry that you were put into a worst case scenario, if you will, a perfect storm for the enemy to attack U.S. Armed Forces. Now, there would come a day of hope. You were rescued by U.S. Special Forces. What type of emotions did you feel? And did you ever think that you would be rescued?
Yeah, that day was a little bit crazy, and I'll explain why. I heard noises that I had not heard in the rest of the days of captivity. I heard voices, and that was from them outside of the hallway, trying to locate me. Of course, I didn't know that it was Americans at the time. But then I heard, the helicopters. I could hear the Humvees and, the heavier machinery that was outside. I could hear bombs going off in the distance. I could hear gunshots. And honestly, my first thought was that, one, they didn't know that I was in there and that they were, going to take over the building and basically kind of bomb it, or again, just take it over. And again, not know that I was in there. So once they were inside the room with me, I was initially in this kind of little tiny, hospital room. Nothing special about it. But I remember one of the Iraqis that was in the room with me was by the window and one was by the door. And they just became very fidgety, antsy. They were just acting strange, which made me tense up because they didn't know what was happening. If they were acting this way, should I become scared? Should I become worried? And again, I'm 19, I'm unable to move. I can't feel anything from my waist. So I'm not able to get up. I can't run. I can't hide. I can't do anything. I'm basically laying on this bed, kind of just waiting it out to see what was about to happen. But yeah, once I heard, the voices outside yelling, "Where's Private Lynch?" and those 2 Iraqis being escorted out of my room, then it was kind of a flood of relief. But yet at the same time, I was scared. I was nervous because I could, just the chaos of that day, that night, it was a relief, but at the same time, it was nerve-wracking because, again, I didn't know what was happening and there was so much going on, and they were, trying to check me over, to move me, to get me out of the room and out of the hospital and into the waiting helicopter, that there was just so much happening at that very moment that just kind of made me nervous of what was about to happen. But I mean, it was a good nervous at that point, because once I seen and recognized and I could hear English and, not familiar faces, but at least Americans in the uniforms, that I was like, okay. It was a little bit more of a relief, but again, yeah, it was just it was nerve-wracking to be in that moment.
As you were talking, sweat was rolling down my back, and I'm sweating on this interview because, again, everything that you've been through, and I mean, it's an amazing story, and these are stories that are so unique, like they've never happened before. And when you were describing being rescued, the only thing that I can go back to was one of my first episodes. A friend of mine, Darren Isham, great man, salt of the earth, human being, Navy SEAL. 25 years he served this great country. I asked him what his proudest moment was. 25 years being a Navy SEAL, he said, being a part of that operation that went and saved PFC Jessica Lynch. And folks, my goosebumps are down my legs right now, on my arms. And Darren Isham is a great American. This man is the epitome of a U.S. Navy SEAL. And this is before I even knew you. And now I'm sitting with you. And God works in mysterious ways. And we have some tremendous heroes in this country, folks. The warriors, the heroes of this great nation. And Darren Isham is one of those men. Now,
yes. Well, thank him for me, because I know that it was a lot of. Let's be honest, there were a lot of boots on the ground that day, in the sky, like they were literally everywhere. But without them, I mean, obviously they wouldn't have gotten me, but they would have not have also found my 11 fallen comrades. So they were able to not rescue them, but they were able to recover their bodies and bring them home safely too. So I think that's kind of one of the biggest part of my story, is not just what happened to me, but these amazing men, like you were just describing, were able to bring home our fallen as well. So that's amazing. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Can you describe some of the injuries that you sustained and what your road to recovery looked like, Jessica?
Yeah. So during the ambush, it was said that once I became unconscious and we hit the back of that semi, the trailer of it, that is when my back broke at the 4th and 5th lumbar. So since I was in the middle on top of like the transmission hump, I wasn't actually in a seat. So of course, when we hit that, there was nothing in front of me to stop me. And my body just flew forward and it snapped it at the 4th and 5th lumbar. So I was dealing with the broken back. But then when the Iraqis came around and was determining again who was KIA and who was still alive, and they took me to one of Saddam's palaces. And at that point, once they had stripped us of all of our military gear, myself and Lori, even though Lori was already basically gone at that moment, but they took her body as well. But for me, they have determined, the doctors, I should say, the American doctors, determined that my right humerus bone in my arm was broken. It was actually kind of snapped. And then my left tibia was broken due to a metal pipe or a ball bat type object they had used that to break my left tibia. My right foot, again, when we were in the Humvee, my body flew forward. It got lodged underneath of the right passenger seat. So when the Iraqis jerked me out of the vehicle, they just literally jerked me out of the vehicle. They just yanked me out. And my right foot actually kind of went sideways and broke at that point. So I was dealing with the right foot, or the right foot broken, the left tibia, the right arm, my back was broken. I had several cracked ribs, and then a head laceration at the top of my kind of skull. But the worst was the left femur was broken. So the Iraqis surgically removed my left femur bone out of my body, and they replaced it with a 1940s era rod that was unsterilized. So when they placed it inside of my body, I got an infection. And at one point, the Iraqis had actually taken me down to an operating room during captivity, and they were going to amputate the leg. But I remember once I was laying there on the operating room table and they were trying to put the oxygen mask over my face, I remembered just begging and pleading with them to please stop. I didn't know what they were going to do at that moment because I couldn't feel anything from my waist down. So I was basically kind of numb to it. And so again, I didn't know they had a blanket kind of laid over top of me. Again, my right arm was broken, so I wasn't able to move it. So I just kind of was just praying and hoping that my lower limbs were even still attached. But when the one Iraqi who could speak kind of a broken English told me that, I needed to count down once they put that oxygen mask on my face, that they needed to amputate my leg, I lost it. I mean, I cried and I begged and I pleaded with them just to please stop. But they did. And, of course, then they put me back upstairs. But so the left femur was also broken. Once I got to Germany, they were able to take out that infected rod and replace it with a new sterilized, clean rod. So I have a rod in my arm, a rod in my femur, a rod in my tibia. My right foot has had 7 surgeries on it. I'm about to face my 8th surgery here coming up very soon. And then the back has a cage in it to kind of help it with the process. But I mean, over the past 20 years, I think I've had everything kind of worked on, and it's been about 20 surgeries that I'm into this, and with the foot surgery, still counting, but I'm okay, because the way that I look at it is, again, I'm very blessed. I'm very grateful that I'm even here today, and that's how I look at it. So I don't look for sympathy over the recovery process of what it has been like over the past 20 years, even though it has been rough. I mean, it's been constant physical therapy. It's been, walking long distances is hard because of the way the right foot keeps kind of breaking. Let's be honest. That's so it kind of turns in just because of the damage that I had done to it. So and then of course it throws off the back, the hips, and the whole 9 yards, and then the leg hurts. So, but I mean, I don't complain too much. I rarely ever complain about it hurting, even though it does, but I'm okay. I again, just feel blessed that I'm able to walk and stand, and, because it could have been could have been so much worse. So yeah, but yeah, recovery has not been the easiest, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay.
Yes, ma'am. I can, testify to pain. Pain changes people. Pain is no fun, and especially when your life is based around you living a life, but you always have to figure, okay, it's going to give me this much pain if I go out and do this. So do I? It's like, just having that quality of life taken away, and then losing years of one's life due to infections and surgeries and recovery and, all that stuff. But like you said, it could have been much, much worse.
Yeah.
You have a great attitude. I mean, you are, I look up the definition of perseverance and resilience, and there you are. You're bright and happy, shining, smiley face. Because when adversity came knocking, you were there, and you stood up with a shield and a sword, and you are a warrior, and battle hardened, battle tested. And you are definitely a very great shining example to all of us. And I sincerely mean that. Your life now, walk us through a day in the life of Jessica Lynch.
Yeah, so it's a crazy life, to be honest. Again, like you were just saying, though, I try to do everything that I can to still live life to the fullest. I don't let too much hold me down or hold me back, even though the pain is there. Let's be honest, but I just don't let it kind of hold me down. I think there's so much more out there to do and see and experience. So yeah, I mean, there's that aspect of it, but yeah, there's the side that nobody wants to talk about, the depression, the PTSD, the side that really kind of keeps you from doing and experiencing and living it to the fullest. So there's times when you're just like, you know what, how do I battle this demon and yet still live, like, and it's hard. I mean, as you know, as any veteran that is probably out there listening right now, they understand that PTSD and that can happen. And I think they call it PTS now. But that can happen with anyone. It doesn't have to just happen to people that's in the military. So if you're listening and you're thinking, yeah, I'm depressed and I can't do this and I don't know how to continue to live, it's not just us veterans that experience this. This is everyone, every person, and even children. As sad as that is, as a teacher, we see it all the time that these young kids are experiencing, and they're depressed and it's hard and and you just want to cuddle them. But at the same time, what do you do? And that's how us adults are. I mean, that's how my daily life is. It's battling and choosing between, do I go out and fish for the day and relieve some of the stress, or do I, take a walk in the woods, even though it's going to be painful to do that, because once I make it to that pretty destination, then I got to find my way back. So I mean, there's that side of daily life too, but for the most part, I get to travel. I am a motivational speaker, so I still travel a lot. I talk to various groups, whether it's like a school that I did yesterday down kind of it was in the southern part of the state. There we go. So I mean, I travel around and speak to veterans and schools and organizations and huge companies and Fortune 500 places that I would have only dreamed about being able to talk and share these experiences. And again, it's not just me getting up and telling my story, because that's been told, and that's most people, I go over it a little bit, obviously, about, kind of just a rehashing moment, but for the most part, it's talking about, the PTSD, the depression, the how can I help you, the resiliency, perseverance side of life now. And for me, that's kind of what that's where I am. That's how I kind of want to be remembered. So if I if I go tomorrow, it's going to be about how my legacy looked, and I want to be able to help people, and even if it's just one person. I know that's kind of cliche to say because I've heard it said so many times before, but if you can just reach one person to make them feel better about how can they go out there and do whatever it is they want to do. So yeah, that's kind of my life now. And when I'm not traveling, I am in the schools teaching. I will be in the schools tomorrow and Thursday, and then off to Chicago on Friday. So it's been busy, but definitely I wouldn't be able to do it without that family and support that we kind of talked about before.
Love it. Love it. Like you said, your story's been told. You were a household name in 2003 and remain a household name, which is why you have the opportunity to speak in front of so many people. But it's almost as if they're not really calling you in to speak about what happened to you. They're calling you in as a symbol of strength and as a as a symbol of hope and as a symbol of never quitting and never giving up, despite the odds and the deck being stacked against you. You still get up every day, you dress up, you show up, and you put the work in. And people don't understand this. People that have been severely injured and go through, post-traumatic stress and all this stuff, you could easily just sit down on the couch and become 400 pounds and feel sorry for yourself and have that victim mentality.
Yeah.
But you didn't do that. You chose a different route. You chose to get 1% better every single day. Now, it didn't come easy for you. And nothing does. And you still battle this every single day, every second, every minute, every hour of every single day. Jessica Lynch is still going to be Jessica Lynch. And everything that you went through, again, people will never see in 10 lifetimes or more. So again, I'm very proud of you, and I know America is too. And again, you are that glimmer of hope in a very dark world. And if you can be a light, even a little light, shining on something that's dark, you have done your job and you have done your duty. Not only as a person, but as an American and as a human. Now, who do you look to for strength?
Honestly, and don't laugh at this, but my daughter, because she's my biggest supporter. I mean, I love my family, don't get me wrong. I love every single one of them, extended and non-extended. But it's honestly my daughter, because I want her to know that I can do this and that I'm trying every single day for her. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, it's more about kind of just making her proud. And I know mm-hmm. she is, but there's something, especially at her age, she's like I said, she's 15 going on 16. So she's at that age where mom's not cool anymore. And I don't even mean the Jessica Lynch. I mean, mom is in me. I'm just, I get to the point where mom's not cool to have around. So I just want to make her proud, as a mm-hmm. mom, as a parent, as a family member. I just want to make sure that she's always taken care of. Again, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. So yeah, she's my biggest supporter. She's always standing beside me and right there encouraging me and telling me that don't give up, mom, you can do this, because she's probably one of the ones other than right here in the household, but I mean, she's probably the one that sees sees it the most when I'm hurting or down, because that's our times when we're taking her to school and we get to talk, or coming home from cheer practice, or whatever it happens to be. So I think definitely my kiddo's my biggest supporter, my biggest one that I lean on and say, you know what, what can I do better in this lifestyle?
That's a great answer, and you're a great mom, and it shows. And, you said, I just want to make her proud, and I want to leave a legacy. I want her to know that mom never gave up. Mom never quit on herself, and mom never quit on you. And that's so important for children because they're watching.
Yeah.
They watch and they learn, and what mom does is going to be what daughter does. And so you set that example. Again, that's the leadership. And again, it's commendable.
Thank you. I mean, she's got a great support system, just like I do. I mean, she's got a wonderful dad. The grandparents are very supportive of everything she does. So yeah, I mean, she definitely has a pretty good head on her shoulders for being 15. But again, it's as a mom, as a parent, as you, as a father, I mean, that again, yeah, that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that our kids are taken care of and that they're, at least a little bit proud of us.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by former prisoner of war, Jessica Lynch, a truly honorable woman, a brave and courageous woman. Folks, if you want to support her, I urge you on this Veterans Day week to go anywhere online where books are sold and pick up a copy of I Am a Soldier Too, the Jessica Lynch story. Folks, just do a Google search. I Am a Soldier Too, the Jessica Lynch story. And let's all come together and let's support Jessica Lynch and her story and her journey. And the book is inspiring, it's encouraging, and it has a message in there for everybody. And again, I highly recommend that you guys go and do that today. And perhaps if you've already read it, buy another copy and share it with your neighbor, a colleague, someone at your church. Who knows? Maybe the guy who bags your groceries down at the local HEB. Guys, you got to share in this. And that's how we come together as a nation, by sharing other people's stories, because they all matter. They all matter. And like Jessica said, we all go through our daily struggles in life. It's not easy. The walk in life is not easy, but it's how you get up. It's how you dust yourself off, and it's how you move forward. That will make all the difference in the world for not only yourself, but for all of the people around you, and your circle of friends, and your circle of family, and your circle of supporters. Now, we have just a few minutes left here. Do you have any special relationships that you've built in the veteran community that you would like to talk about today for a few minutes?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so the veteran community, one, is huge to be a part of, to be able to support, because we don't get that enough. And I don't know how it is within your community, since you are a bigger city, but any kind of support or help that they can get, they need it. The numbers are down, whether you're talking about, your local VFWs or DAVs or, any of those, that the numbers are down, the membership numbers. So anytime you can go in and you can support, whether it's, baking some goods or holding a fundraiser, or whatever that happens to be, definitely encourage you to do that. I plan on, hopefully, when things kind of slow down for me a little bit more right now, hopefully get back in there and doing that more myself. But yeah, I love being able to kind of step out and work with organizations. Let me see here. Oh yeah, I got my my Warrior Weekend shirt that So I went down to Orlando and was able to kind of hook up with Warrior Shield and was able to be a part of a weekend gala with them and where they raised money for veterans. So yeah, I mean, I think that anything that you can do to kind of be a part or help or, associate yourself with, I think that's a good thing to do. And I'm so proud of that. I'm able to be a part of veteran communities like that myself. So yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
The service never ends. I love it. But thank you so much for telling us your courageous story today, Jessica. We sincerely appreciate everything you have done and continue to do for our great nation and our military and veteran communities. Your service, sacrifice, and dedication is truly admirable. And happy Veterans Day.
Thank you. You too. Thank you.